A big military announcement today by the defense minister in the presence of the three military chiefs, officially changing how soldiers will now be recruited, called the Agnipath or the Tour of Duty program. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. Let's bring you the main developments of this critical decision. Now, soldiers will be recruited for a 4 year period. This recruitment will take place on an all India merit system. At the end of 4 years, 25% of those who volunteer to be re enlisted could be re enlisted. There will be a special package for Agniveers, as the government is calling them, income tax exempt packages, as the government underlined today. This tour of duty decision is one that has triggered a fierce debate within the strategic community, with some saying it's an idea whose time has come, and others saying that it will change the very nature, essence, character, and fighting capacity of the military. Bringing you all perspectives of this all important story. And remember, we've been keeping a close eye on it on this platform. Let's introduce our panel of experts today. I'm seeing first on the program, Brigadier Sandy Thapar. Welcome to the program, sir. Also joining us on the program is General Ashok Kumar, who advocated strongly for the scheme in the Hindustan Times. Welcome to the program, sir. General Harsha Kakkar is with us, a military veteran and analyst. Welcome to the program, sir. Also joining us is Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, the former Director General of Military Operations, who has raised in the past serious disquiet about this program. We'll ask him if he still feels so in a moment from now. And Lieutenant General Raj Kadian is also on the program with us. So a very distinguished panel, and I want to get started straight away with General Bhatia. General Bhatia, the last time we were speaking just a few days ago, you thought that the tour of duty idea was a terrible idea. You were very concerned that it would change the character of the military and it would hurt the military's fighting capacity. After the details have been spelled out, we have some sense of the fine print. Are you feeling a little more optimistic today, or do you still have misgivings, General Bhatia?
Yeah, Barkha, I think the tour of duty has been announced, the Agnipath scheme has been announced. What I make of in the initial sense is that the recruitment process and the recruitment selections, the base remains the same. And it is being touted as a scheme which will attract the best, tech savvy and all. But what I feel is that it's not taking the intangibles of the armed forces into consideration. There are many other things which go into making of a soldier. It is not only a little bit of skill, knowledge, it's mostly attitude. And that attitude cannot come in 4 years of service. So I do feel that at the initial comments that I have is that the intangibles need to be catered for. You'll have about 46,000 recruits coming in year one, and they'll go on to about 50,000 in year four. Now, this 46,000 recruits who come into the armed forces of 4 years will undergo training of 6 months and service of 3.5 years. Then 75% of them, which is approximately about 35,000, will go back into the mainstream for new jobs. Now, that is where the two things basically. One, do the armed forces really gain? Do the combat effectiveness is enhanced? I don't think so. Yes, some pennies may be saved in the pension scheme, fine. But I don't think it will enhance the organization effectiveness and the combat effectiveness and defense preparedness, which is very important to ensure peace and prevent wars. The second issue is, which is a concern which I have, is when these recruits who are semi-trained in arms, when they go back after 4 years and the aspirations are not met, they got starry eyes, they got very high aspirations after having done, earning about 40,000 rupees a month, and they go back to the villages and the villagers say, you are being rejected, they'll be dejected, they'll be frustrated. And I do not think even 10% of that, 15% of that 30,000 makes a lot of numbers over the years, year on year. About you add about 10 to 15,000 armed, semi-trained people, recruits at the age of 22, 25, youth going back with frustration. So I think it is neither good for the armed forces nor for the society, and even for the budget, as I see it, it doesn't make much sense. I don't know whether savings will accrue or not, and whether those savings will actually go into modernization. Even if it goes to modernization, it is the soldier that matters. It's the soldier, the man behind the machine that matters. And like I said in your show last time, the essence of soldiering, as I put it, is goes back to the words of Captain Vikram Batra, which you captured very well during the Kargil war. Ye dil mange more. Will we have the recruits equally motivated, the same attitude? Will there be risk aversion? There are a number of gray areas which need to be answered. I wish it was test bedded first. There is a pilot project, and all the gray areas would have been ironed out. We had a system in place both for intake, induction, retention, and even when they go back into the national mainstream, we got to exploit the expertise gained.
Yeah, General Bhatia, I know that in fact the Army headquarters has been meeting many veterans all through the day. You've been among them, and I know you're quite literally between appointments. So I'm going to get one more comment from you before we actually let you go to your appointment, and that is this: you spoke about the "Ye Dil Mange More" spirit, what Vikram Batra had in fact told me at the war front, and you're concerned that that spirit may get diminished. You're concerned about the intangibles. Can you spell out that a little more? Do you mean the sort of izzat, the naam, namak, nishan, driving spirit of the forge, you think might be compromised by such a short-term transitory tenure? General Bhatia.
The soldier fights for his unit izzat. He fights for his own izzat. He fights for the team that he is with, his colleagues, his buddies. He will not let any harm come to them. I will give my own life for the nishan, for the Naam Namak Nishan. I will give my own life for the buddies. But someone who comes for 4 years, there'll be risk aversion. We've seen it in the PLA. We've seen it in the Russian-Ukraine war. We've seen it in other armies also. Let's not take the Israel army as a datum. It is not a datum. They got the total population less than Delhi. So what I see is the intangibles. Are we eroding that ethos? Are we the military ethos which we have, the values we have, the drivers which drive us to make the supreme sacrifice? We have enough examples of people who have laid down, of soldiers, sailors, air warriors who laid down their lives without a second thought for the izzat of the unit, for their team, for their buddies. Now you get a new recruit on a tour of duty, and these are going to come at the functional level. These are at the point of contact. There will be high risk jobs. Will he risk his life in a 4-year tour? I don't think so. And when you have a number of them at the cutting edge, which is the frontline units, because technical units will have a major difficulty. You can't have a tour of duty Agniveer trying to maintain and repair an aircraft, a helicopter, a tank. It's not going to happen in 4 years. What does he learn? In 4 years, you don't even come under a tank to learn what a tank is like. And similarly, to become a good rifleman, you got to have the attitude. It is not soldiering. Soldiering is all about attitude. It's not only skill. We are too carried away by the management techniques of skill and knowledge. And we have to look at attitude. We'll look what binds the unit, what binds them to a team. There are many intangibles. And these intangibles have not, I think, been factored in. Is this will be irreversible once the degradation of the military ethos, the values start? It will be very difficult to stop that and to reverse the thing. So fortunately, I believe that there will be reviews every 6 months to 1 year, and mid-course correction will be done. So I'm sure the leadership and authority will look after the two aspects of combat readiness, defense preparedness, and also looking after the Agniveers who are no longer Veers, but they go out in the mainstream, to exploit them, to give them the aspiration and the jobs, which will be very
Okay.
difficult to do.
Okay, thank you, General Bhatia. You've set the framework for our debate today. We let you go now because I know you're literally on the road joining this program live. So grateful for your time. And let's open this up now and take it straight away to the others. I know there are strong advocates for the scheme and there are many skeptics. Let me bring in General Kakkar. I'm also seeing Air Marshal Chopra joining us. But General Kakkar, your first thoughts. You just heard General Bhatia. Do you agree, disagree, a little bit of both? Go ahead, sir. General
But let
Kakkar?
me tell you something. You're
Yes,
talking
sir.
of a figure. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we are talking of a figure of 46,000 being recruited this year or every year. Uh, I was just reading a report in the Hindustan Times which said that in 2018-19, the army alone recruited over 80,000. In 2019-20, over 50,000. So you are taking the same number of what you were doing every year. But now, instead of taking them in for 15 years, you're now taking them in for 4 years and sending them out. Whom are you playing with? Why are you taking on Are you trying to increase? Is it in addition to what you're doing? No. So what are you looking at? Now, if you look at the advantages, fine. We're going to get a younger force, agreed. We're going to save on pensions and salaries, agreed. Where I would slightly disagree with General Bhatia in terms of a person coming in for 4 years and his employment in operations, we've got to remember that these people coming in are not conscripts, they're volunteers. So, as a volunteer, definitely he may be different. We don't know. We haven't seen them anywhere in operations. We haven't seen them in counterinsurgency. Maybe in a year or two, we'll come to know. The disadvantages, look at the Air Force and the Navy and the Army technical arms. In 4 years, a guy doesn't even learn his trade. If you're looking at an aircraft mechanic, a submariner, or one of these people, by the time he picks up the basics, it's 5, 6 years. So are these forces going to spend their entire budget only in training? Are they going to be only training, retraining, training, retraining because people are getting out after 4 years? What are we looking at? The third aspect, take the individual, exactly what General Bhatia said. There are promises being made that they're being certified, a certificate is being given. This certificate that we've been giving for people after 15 years has had no value with the state governments, has had no value anywhere. As of today, the CAPFs are to hire 10 to 15% of the recruitment from the armed forces veterans. How many are being hired? Nobody knows. The state police forces have got vacancies. The railways have got vacancy. Every ministry has got vacancy. The Defense Resettlement Directorate sitting in RK Puram keeps writing for figures, it gets zero. Who is going to help these guys after 4 years?
So,
He's been taken from a village, got used to wearing shoes, proper boots, full 3 meals, a protected environment, a comfort living in the harshest of conditions. And now you go back and say, friend, manage for yourself. Here's the 10 lakhs for you. Please survive.
so your biggest
Are we being
concern, I
fair
mean,
to these kids?
I agree,
Why can't you
but your
take them into CAPFs?
exactly just what General Malik, Ved Malik, former army chief I was just interviewing, he said that he thought the scheme was okay, but he was concerned about these jawans not being absorbed, just as General Kakkar has said, into the CAPF. But in principle, General Kakkar, do you welcome the scheme if there was a way to absorb the men after 4 years, or do you still have misgivings in terms of it affecting
Tell me,
both the character of the military and its fighting capacity? Sir, you're on mute, sir. You're on mute.
okay. You see, if the intention is to save on pensions and salaries, it makes sense. But you're already doing the same recruitment. So the same numbers you're taking every year, now you're taking them in for 4 years. What difference are you doing? If you were
Yeah.
taking them in addition to what you were, yes. But if you're taking even lesser, I gave you 80,000 and 50,000. Today you're taking 40,000. And for 4 years, are you being, are you showing benefit? Are you showing some sort of a bigger heart, or are you showing a smaller heart? And you're showing your meanness. What are you doing? You decide.
Let me put that
You're
to Air
taking lesser
Marshal.
than what you need.
Yeah. Air Marshal Chopra, let's bring you in at this point. Both you and Major General Ashok Kumar had pieces in the Hindustan Times arguing in favor of the tour of duty that is now official. You heard General Kakkar, you missed General Vinod Bhatia, but he was very, very concerned both about the combat capacity of the military being diminished, how long it takes to build a soldier, but also what he called the intangibles of the military, the Naam Namak Nishan concept, the honor associated with the uniform. Air Marshal, if you had to convince your own colleagues why you think this is a good idea, where would you start, sir?
General Bhatia, I heard him out. He and I were sitting side by side in a briefing that was given about an hour back, where all the three chiefs, the three vice chiefs, the AOP, AG, everybody was present. And there were 30 us veterans who are otherwise active in social media, including General Bhatia, General Sharma, General Dua, you name it, a large number of people who are from NCR. They all were present. And it was a free for all, for each one of us to ask questions to the vice chiefs and the people who have run this whole exercise. And I must tell you, that in addition to what I had written in that article in Hindustan Times, I have come out even much more wiser after listening to the way this whole process has been gone through. This has not happened overnight. It's a process of 2 years that has been, it was started by the previous CDS. In fact, it had started even before he had become CDS, but he is the person who, I remember having met him 1.5 years as Director General Center for Air Pass Studies. I had gone and called on him, and he explained to me that he was driving this, but he also had the blessings of the government. That means right up to the Prime Minister, and that is how the whole exercise has gone through. I met all the three chiefs and the vice chiefs and personally asked each one of them that are the services totally on board, and they said in without mincing any words, that the services are on board and that every aspect and doubts have been factored. So with this little background, I must tell you that firstly, there was a comment made by I think General Bhatia to say what will happen to the technical arms like Air Force, which is going to have an aircraft. This question we asked the Vice Chief of the Air Staff. Today the youngsters in our aircraft are all using servicing and maintenance using iPads. And the guy who will join the Agniveer, 6 months is more than sufficient training as far as Indian Air Force is concerned. Because we are not going to make him do R&D job. We are not going to make him do second line repairs, but we are going to make him do first line job, for which 6 months is more than adequate. We do not require a very high degree, because he'll have an iPad, he will have a checklist, he has to see on, off, he'll change some components. All that is very much possible for Indian Air Force to handle with 6 months of training, and we will be able to in next 4 years take out adequate juice out of that person for the kind of investment we would have made over there. So let me clarify.
Okay.
This aspect, the training, we will not lose out. And the Navy also confirmed, a lot of naval officers were present there, and they also confirmed that there will be no issue as far as the Navy is concerned. In some ways, Navy is even more technical than us. So you can imagine that aspect.
Yeah.
Now, this Naam Nishan Namak, I must tell you, because I have written about this in my article also, that I have no reason to believe that the young people who will join will not wholeheartedly be part of the system. They will be. There is no reason to believe that young Indians are not patriotic. They will come wholeheartedly. They will do triple the amount of work the other guy is doing, because after 4 years he'll have to compete whether he'll get those 25% slots or not. So I think that we should not underestimate the youth on that count. The issue about when he goes into the market, yes, this is an issue the government has been discussing. How will he be absorbed in the market? As of today, there is no provision for them to go into CAPF or any of the other agencies. But there is a lot of activity going on to see how they can be adjusted into industry, whether it's the electronics ministry, various other agencies, and that exercise will be ongoing. The last point at this stage I want to make, because I've got many points to make, but I must say that this issue is going to remain live. The Prime Minister has said that you don't have to come back to review this, the progress on this whole, Agniveer thing to CCS. It will be handled at RM's level. You can make changes at your level. It's inbuilt in the order that has been passed by the government. So therefore, the three chiefs, the Raksha Mantri, they will have flexibility. It will be reviewed. They're going to start with smaller numbers. They told us that till 10 years, the ratio between the Agniveers and the normal people will be, it'll reach 50-50 only after 10 years. So that is the slow process. Yes,
50-50 after 10 years. Okay, sir, you made a lot of different points. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
You made a lot of different enthusiastic points, and I want to give the others a chance to respond. I also see General Bhatia still with us. I thought he'd left the program, so I'm sure he can pick up on some of the points you made. But let's go around the panel now. General Kadian, quick thoughts? General Kadian, go ahead. Go ahead. You're on mute, sir. Okay, sir, you're on mute. Let me bring it to Brigadier Thapar. Brigadier Thapar, go ahead, sir.
Barkha, I also attended this conference, which General Bhatia and Air Marshal Air Marshal Chopra. And frankly, I have mixed feelings about the project. I can understand it's government driven, it's government budget driven. Uh, Obviously, the pressure has come from top because it all boils down to the finances. Now,
But
like,
is that a good reason to make a change, Brigadier Thapar?
I have no say in that. It has been forced upon the forces due to reasons that there is no money for capital. If you need to buy something, then probably some cost cutting will have to be done somewhere. So this is one step. I'm not getting into that. What I'm saying is, why I say mixed feeling is it's a graduated entry, like Air Marshal Chopra said, that it will take 10 years. Every year, just 40,000 is going. So it will take about 10 years by the time the Agniveers are equivalent to the rest of the thing. The thing about what General Bhatia had said about ethos, training, bonding, namak nishan, attitude, I personally feel that can be acquired. The services have such a strong structure, bonding in the unit, and that can be overcome over time. Since the recruitment is just limited, 40,000 means probably 10, 12 people will come to an infantry battalion each year. They can be absorbed and they can be molded in the way you want. There are other things also, but what I'm worried about mainly is those 75% who are rejected. Apart from what they brought out, I raised the question there. I said, has the government given a thought? Over 30,000 fully trained soldiers who just got a pittance, 10 lakh rupees is nothing, at the prime of their life, 23, 24, coming back to a village, he has no job. I do not believe there will be any lateral entry into paramilitary forces. I do not believe the industry will be standing with their arms open for them. We've seen it for the past 40 years. Very few will get a job. He will go back to his village. I dread what an unemployed, fully trained soldier who has no future will do. So I'm a little worried about that, but I'll reserve my overall comments about the scheme as such. We should give it a try. It has certain fallacies, problem areas, but I'm sure the armed forces will round it up soon. And
But the reason, General Kumar, for reform cannot be the absence of funds. If anything, one would think that a government whose centerpiece is its sort of nationalism beliefs would spend more, not less. How do you respond to what you've heard, General Kumar? Because I know you're also a supporter of this decision.
Barkha, when we had this discussion on your channel last time,
Yes.
that time the scheme was yet to be announced. So everybody was in his way right to have an opinion, either in for or against, or a mixed opinion based on the way one individually sees, because it will remain a subjective view. Now, when we are having a discussion, see the paradigm shift which has taken place in the timeline. Now, a scheme has been firmly announced by the Raksha Mantri in presence of 3 service chiefs. So now, who are the current stakeholders? One stakeholder is the people who are going to join Agniveers. So once the advertisement comes, how many people are going to opt for that? That will be their call. If there is a war after 3 to 4 years, when some Agniveers have joined the armed forces, who will be fighting the war? It will be fought by the people who are in service on that particular day. And therefore, there is a need to respect that wisdom, that it has taken 2 to 3 years time for them to come out with this scheme. What were the considerations? But the scheme is something which is fully implementable. In fact, if you remember, you started with the quote of Vikram Batra, Dil Mange More. Can you remember what the service he was having at that point of time when he made the supreme sacrifice? He was commissioned on 6th December 1997. It was less than 2 years of service. In fact, I am yet to find a single example in the history of independent India wherein a person with a lesser service, irrespective of the rank, has performed anything lesser in the context of war. I know I will be glad if my seniors who are there, they can quote me a single incident. It is
So,
it
so
doesn't
let me take your point. Let me take your very interesting point
Barkha,
that
it is very, very important to appreciate the moment you put on uniform and you are a youth, it transforms you to a different level altogether. There will be some exceptions always, but then majority of the people
But
do their best. They can be comparable with their service of the normal recruitment. So they still has.
let me take this to General Kadian. You make a good point about raising the young age and how few years the Kargil heroes had served. But there is what General Bhatia called the intangibles of the forge, and the intangible is a life of honor, a life of a commitment, a deep commitment, a commitment so deep that you're willing to die for it. When that commitment becomes a short-term stint, does it change the ethos of the military, or is it just the military modernizing itself? I think that's what we are talking about. General Kadian, if you want to come in, and then I'll go around the panel again. General Kadian?
Barkha, the entire basis of bringing in this tour of duty scheme is government's claim that the pension bills of the defense pensions are too high. I would like to contest that by facts and figures. Today, there are 52 lakhs government pensioners. Out of that, the defense pensioners are only 90 lakhs. That is about 35%. Second factor, every defense pensioner gets a lower pension than his civilian counterpart because 85% of the soldiers retire in the age of 40. When his salary is low, therefore his pension is lower. Every civilian employee goes up to 58. Third factor, the last pay commission, the civilians brought the NFU, non-functional upgrade. If a government employee is found useless, he is not able to get even a single promotion, but his salary will keep rising. Even an undersecretary today will retire, even if he remains undersecretary, will retire with the pay scale and pension scale of an additional secretary. So this is a bit of a myth that defense pensioners are a bigger drain on the national exchequer. That is one point. Secondly, my comments are based more on the army, not on the Air Force and Navy. The working conditions are different. Why does a soldier willingly lay down his life? Money is a factor, but not the only factor. He lays down, the Bhartiya touched upon it. It is a regimental history, it is the battalion history, it's a lifelong commitment. Even after he retires, every year he comes and attends the units. It's a bigger family that he finds. The camaraderie that builds up over the years cannot build for a contractual army in 4 years. We are a professional army which has been involved to the maximum extent in the entire world.
Right.
And we are trying to
so you don't agree?
Healthiest to.
Sorry,
so
I'm
I don't
interrupting
think
you.
it's a wise scheme.
Okay.
The man in 4 years will neither have the motivation or the spirit. His mind will be post 4 years. What does he do? A professional army can deliver much more than a contractual army.
Okay,
Machines,
so we've heard. Let me come in here. We've heard very different perspectives on this program, a whole spectrum of them. General Bhatia, if you want to come into the very passionate advocacy that Air Marshal Chopra made, and of course, at least three of you on this program today were at that briefing with the top leadership of the military. General Bhatia, do go ahead. General Bhatia, you're on mute, sir. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, I don't think General Bhatia can hear me. So let me take this to Marshal Chopra. You've heard the disquiet from General Kadian, from even Brigadier Thapar making the point that the root of this, he thinks, lies in one singular aim to reduce military pensions. If this is reform, it should not be rooted in that, should it be, Marshal Chopra?
This question was asked today. Today this was a specific question because this is bothering many veterans, because we all feel that there are many others who are also taking pensions. But I must tell you, when some statistical figures were given to us today, they did mention that the main reason for it is no more to cut pensions. For the last 4 years, the pension bill hasn't gone up very significantly after the OROP has settled down. In fact, they give us figures that the jump in defense budget and jump in capital budget was many percentage times more than the increase in defense pension. So they said that this issue needs to be cooled off to say that it is, yes, you will save defense pensions. Undoubtedly, it's not my charter to compare, the civil side and others, which is a separate debate altogether. But yes, they will be. But I want to tell you the bigger thing is about youthful profile. You see South Korea, you see Singapore, you see Israel, you see Sweden. You read a book written by two Israeli young military officers after they left and joined some startups outside. The book is called Startup Nation. It's an excellent book, and once you will read it, your whole idea about what is happening here will change. What we are going to go through. We are going to bring the youth, the profile down by 8-10 years. The youth, your average age after 10 years will be 25 to 26 years. And I'm telling you, these young people, I'm a father of young girls, and I see that, they will perform outstandingly well. They are very, very motivated. And in our own colonies, we see young people. So my contention is that money is not to be overplayed. The money is not going to make, of course, it's going to make a difference in the long term, but this long term is really long term. That money differences are going to come after maybe 10 years or so. So therefore, let's concentrate capability. That's the issue.
Okay, General.
They are going to perform. I'm very sure. Yes.
Before I come to Brigadier Thapar, General Bhatia, if you can hear me and you want a quick response there, sir. Okay, General Bhatia is somewhere near Army headquarters with the same.
Some technical issue. I can't hear the question, but I'd like to. Yes. I'd like to give one comment only. That tour of duty has been announced for the sake of the nation, for the sake of the armed forces, for national security, and for the sake of people. I hope it succeeds. However, I'm a high-risk man. I'm a paratrooper. This is something I would not like to risk. The risk is too high. The chances of failure, one too many, and the costs of failure are one too many. I don't think we can afford that cost, especially given our security challenges, both along our western borders and more importantly, our northern borders. We've seen the PLA, their problem was the manpower, the soldiers, the attitude of the soldiers, the experienced soldiers. We need a right mix of youth, young army, experience, and the attitude, which I've been talking about. The experience is important. Quality manpower is important. And in 4 years, if you can develop a quality soldier, I have my doubts. It is not going to happen really. So we are stuck with this. Now it is up to us to make sure it succeeds. I'm sure the military leadership and the national leadership will give it the due diligence, due importance. And as they say, it's a whole of government approach. It's a whole of government approach. Let the ownership be with the government, let the ownership of the armed forces, and let us make sure it come together and make sure it succeeds. I wish them success for the sake of the nation, for the sake of the country, for the sake of the people.
Thank you, General Bhatia. We're going to say thank you to you at this point. We heard your comment, even if you didn't hear us. Brigadier Thapar, let's bring you in. Brigadier Thapar. Yeah.
Want to do apart from the budget thing. I asked this question in the conference. They did give me a reply, but I'm a little cynical about it. See, they are adding 40,000 soldiers every year. In the past 2 years, we've not had recruitment. The army is at certain amount of deficiency. As we all know, the natural outflow of those who go on pension is about 60 to 70,000. So we are just adding 40. So we adding to that shortfall which is there. My personal feeling is that in a hidden way, the government is ensuring that the size of the army in the next couple of years comes down to about, say, 10 to 11 lakhs from the present thing. By this method, it adds up, all adds up, though the vice chief did give a rationale then how they're going to meet up the requirement, but I'm not convinced, because if the input is less than the output,
why would the government want to reduce the size of the military? Not in the stage of a two-front conflict.
Probably again, it all boils down to budget, threat perception, more reliance on technical issues on equipment rather than manpower, more on combat power than personnel. So that is what probably is in mind. But that's the feeling I get. I could be wrong, but that only 5% chance, because back of the envelope calculation
Yeah.
showed that input is less than output. So obviously there are going to be deficiencies.
General Command, do you want to take that eventually this reduces the size of the military?
If you see number of countries, they have downsized their armed forces, or you can use the term as right size the armed forces, because of the technological advancements and new method of war fighting, which requires less intensive manpower than what was the practice before. And if the India as a nation and the armed forces as its main stakeholders have to reduce the forces and align it as per the operational necessity, why should they hide it and go behind the tour of duty or Agnipath scheme to have this perception and belief that the hidden agenda is to reduce the army, not to fill the vacancies? I think we are being too cynical and not having trust of our people who are currently at the helm of affairs. They must be given due credit. The theaterization is underway with whatever pace. A lot of other by changes are going to happen. If the operational necessity, threat perception necessitates the size of the forces to be reduced, it has to be a function of that. And nowhere at any stage anybody has said that the forces have to be reduced because of the pension requirement. That may be an incidental benefit. You just see the approach of even the government. They have given so much of money to support Sri Lanka. They are giving to so much of money to number of other countries in the world.
Yeah.
India is not having that much dearth of the funds, so to say. So a belief that this modernization, this concept implementation is being done for money is actually hitting the government and the people in the defense forces below the belt. If the government has to
Brigadier
downsize
Thapar, you want to respond to that? Brigadier Thapar, you want to respond to that? Brigadier Thapar?
That has the feeling I got in the briefing, and they couldn't answer my questions very satisfactorily. I could be wrong, like I said, but the calculations don't match, and I'm a mathematician, so to me the calculations didn't match. So, and I spoke to a lot of senior officers who are serving. The feedback I got was that this could be a possibility. Nobody was putting his pen on paper or telling me for certain, but people suspected that this could be one of the reasons why we are doing this. I leave it at that.
General Kadian.
I agree with
Sorry.
him. Sorry,
Yeah, Marshal.
if you
Yeah,
allow
Marshal.
me.
Yeah.
I agree with him, and I also spoke to a lot of people. It's becoming very clear for quite some time the numbers are going to be reducing, and maybe subsequently they will stabilize. But the serving people told me that all of us can actually reduce numbers on many counts. I will give you a few examples. When in 1991 the crunch happened, there was no budgets. All armed forces were told to reduce by 10%. They just reduced. In COVID, we lived with 130 number of people for 2 years. The operational efficiency was still maintained. I mean, this is one of the air marshals today quoted to me there. So the point I'm saying is, yes, he's right. Brigade is right that the numbers are going to reduce. They'll reduce maybe for 8-10 years. The numbers will be less, but subsequently, when the numbers may stabilize or as the armed forces may require. But yes, this number are going to reduce. Yes.
So, General Kadian, the numbers are going to reduce, but I think the point that Air Marshal Chopra is making is that we can manage with whether that's a downsizing or a right sizing, depends on your point of view. General Kadian, your thoughts, and then I have to start closing. General Kadian?
Barkha, this kind of social experimentation, where you want to give a chance to the youth of the country, calling them Agniveer, etc., should be tried out in a low-risk organization. We are trying it out in a defense forces where the risk is very high. If after I only hope and pray there is no war with this scheme. If there's a war, you don't expect a man who's got a looking already beyond 4 years to be committed to the extent that he can lay down his life. There is that bonding, that camaraderie, that spirit that comes with length of service and his knowledge that even after I go, my family will be looked after. I don't think can come in a youngster who is there only for 4 years. So it should be, why don't they try in the government? Hire people for 4 or 5 years and send them back and hire new ones. There's no risk. But you are trying in a country where we have volatile borders. China is breathing down our neck. Pakistan is looking for every opportunity to hurt us. Soldiers are deployed all along, round the clock, maximum operational deployment if you take the world. Of course, they don't come to know because no cameras go there, no media goes there in Siachen. But the difficulty that the man is facing, I don't think a man who's got only 4 years limited commitment would be able to do that.
Okay, I have to close, but I want to give Air Marshal Chopra last word on this. What if there were war? What if there were war? I think given that we're already in a two-front conflict, China and Pakistan, look what's happening in Kashmir, look what's happening with China, the likelihood, God forbid it happens, no war should be wished upon, in particular the military who has to pay with their lives for it. But what if there were war? Air Marshal, quick last word.
We will do well. We will fight well. Our young people, whosoever we will take, whether it's Agniveer or now, they will all fight very well. And I'm telling you, I can prove it to you mathematically just now, that as far as China is concerned, Indian Army and Indian Air Force are sitting much, much better position than them. My last point I want to tell you is that if you take the figures of 1991 and today, the percentage of Indian Army, Navy, Air Force sitting in headquarters of these services is unreasonably high, and orders have been given by all three service headquarters. They're going to cut down the headquarter figures by 15% by 31st of December this year. So the point is, these boys will go back into the field. They'll be hands-on again, and there is going to be action. And I'm a proud Indian to say that these young boys are going to do a great job. Yes.
Okay, we'll leave it there with the hope, as General Bhatia said, that you are right. For the sake of our country, for the sake of our military, and for the sake of our security. Thank you. It's been a spirited debate, and nothing different should be expected from the Forge. General Kadian, Brigadier Thapar, General Kumar, Air Marshal Chopra, and previously to General Kakkar and General Bhatia. Pleasure. And we will continue to follow this. This isn't over yet. The debate has just begun. And of course, as I think was pointed out in the program, there could be and there will be periodic reviews of how it is actually working out. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Take care and have a great evening. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.